the Nonprofit Podcast, powered by Donorbox. Running a nonprofit is tough, especially right now. With fluctuating funding sources and the ongoing pressure to grow your donor base, it's so easy to feel like you're constantly running uphill. But when you tap into the power of collaboration, that uphill battle can become a lot less steep. Joining forces with other organizations can increase your reach, spread out the workload, and help you achieve the sustainability and fundraising goals you might not be able to hit on your own. Welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast. I'm Jenna, Education and Community Engagement Manager here at Donorbox. We are here each week with practical actions you can use today to take your nonprofit to the next level tomorrow. Today, we are diving into the power of collective fundraising, specifically how forming meaningful partnerships can help nonprofits navigate uncertainty, reach larger donor pools, and deliver greater impact. And joining me today is my co-host, Britton Stockert, fundraising strategist here at Donorbox. And together, we're going to get concrete about identifying potential partners, structuring those relationships, and running successful joint campaigns. Hey, Britt.
Jenna, hello. I am so excited to talk about all of the ways that partnerships can elevate your fundraising today.
I am too. And I want to start with the basics. Partnership is such a broad term that can mean so many different things in so many different contexts. So, can you define what we mean by collective fundraising partnerships?
Definitely. And I think at its core, collective fundraising, it really is about nonprofits coming together, combining their time, their money, their expertise, and their outreach efforts. It's all about pooling resources and magnifying your collective impact. It could be a one-off event, a co-hosted gala, a joint grant application. Ideally, it's an ongoing collaboration where you work together, multiple campaigns over time, sharing the responsibility, leaning on each other, and genuinely just creating a bigger impact than any of you could do on your own.
This is such a great approach, especially in times like these. But how do organizations identify who they should partner with?
There are a couple of things that come to mind here. First, alignment. Who in your community is tackling a similar challenge? We tend to think that perfect partners do exactly what we're doing, but think about how are your missions complementing each other? And if that's the case, you're already on the right track. I know here in King County in Washington, I've seen it during the summer. I've seen it where an arts nonprofit for kids, they teamed up with the public library. One's on creativity and arts, the other on literacy. But look, they had the same goal, which was helping kids succeed. They had a summer camp where they kind of baked in theatrics and reading challenges. What it did was it gave kids like mine an experience that really stepped up creativity and academics. So I think that's such a great example of alignment. Another thing that comes to mind is a shared audience. If you're serving the same community, your impact can grow exponentially. And I've seen this happen with community resource days here. Families that are in low-income housing, they have an opportunity to tap into wraparound services. I've seen it where one nonprofit focuses on food insecurity, another nonprofit is driving hard workforce development. And what they've done is they've teamed up for a family empowerment day, meals, job readiness workshops, career coaching, all in a safe place where households can really just get a robust smattering of support. And I think, again, shared audience, it's just such a powerful way to meet both immediate needs and long-term stability. And don't forget about location. If your nonprofits are both based in the same area, teaming up for events, it's such a win-win. Think about splitting cost on things like venues, planning, marketing, all of the things to really stretch your budget while expanding your reach. It's not just about saving money, it's about deepening connections and making a bigger impact together that you couldn't do on your own.
And I'd add to this, don't forget about the intangible factors. Organizational culture is super important here as well. You want to make sure that your potential partner has a similar approach to communication, values, and overall working style, right? Partners who get along and communicate openly tend to collaborate more smoothly and successfully. So you definitely want to check on those things as well.
Exactly. A partnership should feel like it's a good fit, not just on paper, but in practice. And this is kind of where shared goals, mutual respect, and complementing each other's strengths comes into play.
Okay. I want to talk about how to actually approach a potential partner. Once you've identified an organization or potential organizations that seem like a good fit, where do you even start? How do you start that conversation with them?
I think the key here is to approach a partnership with curiosity and openness. Don't just jump in with a pitch. When you're reaching out, it's all about showing genuine interest in their work. It might be mentioning something specific that really impressed you about their impact. It could be a project they're running or just a difference that they're making. This shows that you're showing up, you're not just asking for help, but you truly believe in what they're doing and you want to be there to support it. It's all about building the relationship first, giving value before you ask for anything. And trust me, when the time comes to talk about making that ask, it's going to feel like a natural step.
Yeah, I think it's like kind of like a donor relationship, right? You don't go into asking for a donation the first time that you meet them. A simple, hey, I've been following your work and I really admire how you do XYZ. I'd love to explore if there's a way for us to support each other goes a really, really long way.
Exactly. And when you make that first contact, be clear that you're interested in the long term sustainable partnership. And again, these conversations, they don't have to be glammed up or formal. It might be a casual coffee meeting or a virtual Zoom call to simply brainstorm ideas. And don't forget to be patient. Not every potential partner is going to jump at the first offer. Keep the door open and let them see that you're interested in a relationship built on trust and shared goals. If they're not ready, that is totally fine. Just keep the conversation friendly and open so that hey, they might come back when the time is right.
So let's say you've found a potential partner, you've started the conversation, and then let's say you're making plans to move forward. That's great. How do you structure the relationship for fundraising success? I really want to dig into that a little bit more.
I think we naturally jump into these relationships without much foresight. And I would say, first things first, set clear goals. You want to be on the same page about what you're trying to achieve. Are you aiming to raise a specific dollar amount, increase brand visibility, or perhaps reach a new donor segment? Each of you might have slightly different objectives, but having shared success metrics is so important. It's important to align on how you'll measure success. Are you tracking donations, volunteer signups, or overall engagement? Make sure you both know what success looks like and how you're going to reach it. Part of that is defining roles and responsibilities. Who the heck is handling what? One nonprofit might take the lead on event planning, while the other focuses on donor communications. It's so important to split the task in a way that plays to each other's strengths because no one wants to feel overwhelmed.
I couldn't agree more. And I think it's also worth formalizing this in some way as well. A partnership is a big deal, I think. So, a memorandum of understanding, so that's an MOU, can really help with this. But I don't think it needs to be overly formal. It's more about clarifying those commitments, those timelines, cost splits, and how you'll handle the funds once they start rolling in. So, an MOU is just a really simple way to set expectations, one that you've already talked about, putting it in a document so that you're avoiding confusion down the line.
Absolutely. And speaking of expectations, make sure you decide early on how you'll co brand your campaigns. It might be on social media, flyers, or event materials. Brand consistency is so important. You don't want your donors confused by multiple logos or conflicting messages. With clear, unified branding, it's going to help you communicate your partnership's message so much more effectively and make it easier for your audience to support both of your nonprofits. The goal is for partnership to feel streamlined, seamless for your supporters. Whether they're donors, volunteers, or local businesses, they should clearly understand what your shared mission is behind the campaign and feel excited to support it.
I'm really glad that you brought that up. Branding is such a big piece that I think a lot of folks can miss. Both organizations have probably worked very hard to create very strong brands of their own. So, spending that time to make sure that they're marrying their brands where it feels cohesive but also recognizable is so important. Okay, now that we've covered the how to of structuring the partnership, I want to talk about what you're actually going to do to raise that money together, right? This is the important part. There are several ways to approach collective fundraising, and each one has its own strengths depending on your resources and what your partner can bring to the table. Let's talk about that a little bit more.
Totally. First up, joint grant applications. We all know grant applications can take so much time. Why not tap into the power of support to submit joint grant applications? And I think this is a great one, especially for those larger funding opportunities out there. Let's just say you're partnering with a nonprofit, focuses on education, and you're all about providing meals for students in need. Pull both of your expertise together and apply for a grant together. Not only does it show a broader, more well rounded approach, let me tell you, funders love it. They see that the two of you aren't duplicating efforts, but rather you're tapping into each other. You're leaning on each other to strengthen each other's impact.
So you're showing that you're all about that collaboration, not that competition, right? So funders often look at joint applications as a sign of strong community ties and that you're solving an even larger challenge. And remember, it doesn't have to be a huge national grant by any means. It could be local foundations or government funds. They could be a good fit for regional partnerships like this too.
Right. And that leads to another great option I've seen: co hosting events. This is a classic, but still so effective. Imagine organizing a community festival or a fundraising gala where you share the cost. One nonprofit might take the lead on event logistics, the other nonprofit focuses on the communications and all of the sponsorship outreach. You can even do things like split volunteer pools. What's the best part about this? You're both tapping into each other's donor bases, and your combined network is way stronger than you could have reached on your own. Plus, with multiple organizations behind it, it's going to get more attention. Think about it. If you're promoting an event through your channels and your partners are doing the same, what you're doing here is you're basically doubling your reach without doubling the work.
Yes, for sure. Okay, what else? How can organizations partner in other ways?
Yeah. So, what I've seen here, and this is just in one state, but I think it's so powerful, is regional giving days. These are those big 24-hour online fundraisers. Communities pull together. I know here in Washington, we have a Washington Gives Day. I've seen it in other states. Let's just say you and your nonprofit partner are both focused on the same region. During one of these giving days, you can team up for a collective campaign and be featured on the same platform with that cohesive, unified message. And the cool thing about these regional giving days is that donors feel super motivated, super connected to your community because they're not just giving to one organization, they're part of a larger effort, kind of like a whole movement, which creates a sense of unity and shared impact. And I think this is another theme, and it aligns with what we've talked about earlier, is get a little bit creative. Consider resource sharing partnerships. It's not just about fundraising directly, it's going to be a game changer when increasing productivity and efficiency. Let's just say your nonprofit partner has a talented marketing designer who just goes above and beyond. They could offer their design team's help to create flyers and promotional materials for your next event. And hey, in exchange, maybe you can provide volunteers to help the other nonprofit with outreach on the day of. Again, it's all about getting creative here, making the most out of your combined resources so that you can keep costs low for both of you. You would be so surprised by how much you can get done by sharing all of those behind the scene resources like staff time, office space, marketing materials. This is such a simple way to make a huge impact in terms of what you can accomplish together.
And these models don't have to be separate. You can mix and match them for sure. Maybe you co host an event to raise awareness for your regional giving day campaign, or you partner up on that grant proposal, and then you tap into that resource sharing for marketing and outreach. The possibilities are truly endless once you start thinking about how your resources and goals align. It's all about finding models that work for you and your partners. So start with one model, experiment a little, and then refine it as you go. And above all, keep the communication open for sure. All right, we've Covered a lot of ground so far, but let's talk about something that doesn't always get talked about enough, which is managing conflicts and overcoming some of these common pitfalls in partnerships. Not every partnership is smooth sailing. So, what do you think folks should watch out for?
I would say one of the biggest pitfalls is unequal commitment. We see this a lot happening just with relationships in general. If one organization is doing most of the fundraising, event planning, outreach, you name it, while the other one just coasts, hey, what's going to happen? Resentment, it's going to build fast. It's a breakdown of trust. So before you jump in, again, get clear on those roles and responsibilities. If one partner is taking the lead on logistics, that's a heavier lift, and that's fine as long as everyone is on the same page and agrees on it from the get go. The other thing that comes to mind, I would say, is misaligned expectations. If you don't talk about expectations from the start, you're setting yourself up for tension later on. So get it on the table early. What does success look like for both of you? Outline that in detail. And I think the last thing that comes to mind is communication. We know it can really make or break a partnership. I've seen collaborations fall apart just because one side made a decision and forgot to loop in the other. What's the fix here? Quick, regular check ins. A 15-minute biweekly touch point, it keeps everyone on the same page. One thing to remember here, if a decision affects both organizations, we need to be considerate, loop in each other before it's finalized because nothing breaks trust faster than finding out about a major change after the fact when you could have been included in those conversations from the get go. And I think this is where the power of good technology systems come into place. I've been there, Jen. I'm guessing you have too, where we're dealing with these endless email threads of, oh my gosh, wait, where did that email go? Who's handling that? There's no reason for this. That's when a good shared CRM, Google Drive, or even a project management tool like Asana or Monday can make such a huge difference.
Yes, I absolutely agree. You need great systems in place. You need to know what's where, who has access to what. Again, a theme here, right? Communication and having a good CRM, those drives in place will make a really big difference there. So we've talked about how to find partners, how to structure your relationship, how to choose a fundraising model, how to avoid conflicts. I want to give some great examples of this as well. What are some good examples that you've seen of this out in the real world?
Yeah, one standout example that comes to mind here is the Rescue Mission Alliance and Mendocino Coast Clinics in California. I'm biased, I'm from California. And what these two nonprofits did, they came together to provide healthcare and emergency services to the homeless population. And instead of working in silos, they co hosted free health clinics and food drives. What made this collaboration so darn special was how they leveraged each other's strengths. The Rescue Mission Alliance, they brought in their network of volunteers or outreach workers, while Mendocino Coast Clinics, they provided the medical expertise, all of the medical supplies and those services. And by pulling resources together, they served, gosh, I think it was over 1,000 individuals during a one-day event, offering wraparound services, everything from basic health screenings to critical care to nourishing meals. And this is just such a great example of how powerful these joint collaborations and partnerships can be to expand your reach and your impact out in the community.
So they used a lot of different models there, the resource sharing, the events, right? And also just the big funding opportunities. So that's the perfect example. And another example I love is from SOS Children's Village in Illinois. And they teamed up with the Cradle to raise funds and awareness for children in foster care. So they organized a joint campaign around National Foster Care Month, and they shared stories and they organized donation events and they ran both online and in-person efforts, which really helped them engage a broader audience and raise more funds than I think either organization could have done alone. So they split the costs, they split the responsibilities, and they reached more people and had a bigger impact on kids. And even better, they have a partnership that will be sustainable for a really long time.
Right. And, these are great examples that tapped into all of the components that we talked about. But for the nonprofits listening in, it doesn't have to be a robust thing. Think about what your organization brings to the table, whether it's your networks, your resources, your expertise. If you're unsure where to start, start small. And that might look like co-sponsoring a local workshop or a seminar. You don't have to make it this big deal type of thing. Start small, test the waters, build that trust, and build and expand from there.
Let's wrap up. We have covered a lot today. So, Britt, can you leave us with the first step for nonprofits listening today? What can they do if they want to start establishing these types of partnerships?
Make a list of your needs. What resources are you lacking? Are there goals you can't hit on your own? What's a roadblock to sustainability? And then from there, make a list of your potential partners. Think about that mission alignment. Think about shared audiences, shared locations, shared complementary skills. And then from there, reach out. It might be a simple email, a call. And once you've made that initial connection, you don't want to wait too long to start the conversation. Keep it informal, keep it natural, bounce ideas back and forth, explore what each nonprofit brings to the table, and set up a meeting to see where your goals align. And again, don't overcomplicate it. Start small. It could be a joint event, a shared campaign. See how that goes, evaluate it, and build from there.
Thank you, Britt. This has been such a helpful conversation today, and I hope that our listeners find it helpful, especially during these uncertain times. I think communication and community, especially, are more important than ever. And thank you for joining us on the Nonprofit Podcast. I hope you've left with the confidence to take a small step today that will make a big difference tomorrow. Be sure to click the download button on your podcast player, then leave the Nonprofit Podcast a review, or give it a thumbs up if you're listening to the Nonprofit Podcast on YouTube. Your reviews help others find us. You're here to help others. We're here to help you. Until next time, stay inspired.
That warm feeling when you help someone, it's not just happiness, it's fulfillment. And we believe it should be available to everyone, from frontline heroes to first-time fundraisers. Our tools empower you to help others. This is our mission. This is Donorbox, helping you help others.